He had been lying in that bed for 45 minutes. No water, no pain medication, no acknowledgement that he existed. The man in bed 7 of Chesapeake General's emergency department looked like every other patient in the waiting area, pale, tired, forgettable. Mid-30s, average build, wearing a hospital gown that made everyone look equally pathetic. A bandage on his forearm, an IV port that hadn't been connected to anything. He had pressed the call button 11 times. Nurse Megan Price had walked past his bed 14 times. She had checked on the elderly woman in bed 5. She had flirted with the young resident near the supply closet. She had taken a 15-minute coffee break. She had not looked at him once. "Excuse me," he said for the 12th time, his voice hoarse. "I've been waiting for—" "Sir, I'll be with you when I can," Megan snapped without turning around. "We're understaffed. You're not dying. Wait your turn." The man in bed 7 didn't argue. He didn't complain. He just closed his eyes and settled back against the thin pillow. But if Megan had bothered to look, really look, she might have noticed something strange. His heart rate on the monitor was 52 beats per minute. Resting. Controlled. The heart rate of someone who had trained their body to stay calm in situations that would make normal people scream. His eyes, when they were open, never stayed still. They tracked every person who entered the ward, every exit, every shadow. And his hands, the hands she dismissed as belonging to just another whiny patient, were covered in calluses that didn't come from typing or driving or any normal job. They came from holding weapons, because the man in bed 7 wasn't waiting for treatment. He was waiting for the killers to arrive, and in approximately 3 minutes they would. 6 hours earlier, the briefing room at Joint Special Operations Command was cold, sterile, and windowless, designed to keep secrets in and sunlight out. Chief Petty Officer Ryan Cole sat at the metal table, studying a photograph projected on the wall. The photo showed a woman in her 40s, dark hair, tired eyes, handcuffed to a hospital bed. Elena Petrov, the briefing officer announced. Former accountant for the Volkov-Bratva. 3 weeks ago, she walked into the FBI field office in D.C. and offered to testify against Dmitry Volkov in exchange for witness protection. "Volkov," Cole said quietly. "The ghost." "You know him." "We've crossed paths." Cole's jaw tightened. "Fallujah, 2015. He was selling weapons to insurgents. We almost had him. Almost." The briefing officer nodded grimly. "Volkov doesn't forget, and he doesn't forgive." The moment Elena agreed to testify, she became the most wanted woman in the Russian underworld. Volkov has put a $2 million bounty on her head. Where is she now? Chesapeake General Hospital, Baltimore. She collapsed 2 days ago. Stress-induced cardiac event. The doctors won't clear her for transport until she's stable. The officer pulled up a hospital floor plan. FBI has 2 agents on her door, but Volkov has people everywhere. We need someone inside. Someone who can get close without being noticed. Cole studied the floor plan. "You want me to be a patient. You'll be admitted through the ER with a minor injury, laceration on your forearm, easily treatable, but enough to justify an overnight stay. Elena is in room 412 on the 4th floor. Your bed will be on the same floor directly adjacent to her room. Rules of engagement? Protect the witness at all costs. If Volkov's people make a move, you are authorized to use lethal force. But Ryan," the officer leaned forward, "you'll be alone. No backup inside the hospital, no communications except a panic button. If things go wrong—" "They won't," Cole said. He picked up the photograph of Elena Petrov, a woman he had never met, who had risked everything to do the right thing. "They won't." Present time, Chesapeake General Hospital. The emergency department of Chesapeake General was controlled chaos. Ambulances arrived every 15 minutes. Doctors shouted orders across crowded hallways. Patients moaned, cried, bled on plastic chairs that had seen too much suffering. Ryan Cole lay in bed 7, invisible. The laceration on his forearm was real. He had made it himself with a field knife before walking into the ER. Deep enough to require stitches, shallow enough to avoid serious damage. A perfect cover. He had been admitted 3 hours ago. In that time, he had mapped every exit, identified every security camera, and memorized the faces of every staff member who walked through the ward. He had also identified two men who didn't belong. They were sitting in the waiting area, pretending to read magazines. Both were in their 30s, athletic builds poorly hidden under loose jackets. One had a tattoo on his neck, Cyrillic lettering that Cole recognized as Bratva Inc., Russian Mafia. Volkov's advance team. They weren't here for treatment. They were here for reconnaissance, mapping the hospital, identifying security, finding weaknesses. Elena's room was 3 floors up. The FBI agents on her door were good, but they were also obvious. Anyone with training could spot them. Cole needed to get upstairs. But first, he needed his damn IV connected. "Excuse me," Cole said, flagging down a passing nurse. "I've been waiting for almost an hour. My arm—" The nurse didn't even slow down. "Someone will be with you." Cole watched her disappear around the corner. His patience was infinite. SEALs trained for days of silent waiting. But every minute he spent in this bed was a minute Elena was vulnerable. He pressed the call button again. This time, Nurse Megan Price appeared. She was in her late 20s, blonde hair pulled into a severe ponytail, face set in a permanent expression of inconvenienced annoyance. She looked at Cole the way she might look at a piece of furniture that had been placed in her path. "What?" "I need my IV started. I've been waiting—" "For 45 minutes, yes, I heard you the first 11 times. Megan checked her tablet without looking at him. "You have a minor laceration. You're stable. We have actual emergencies to deal with. I understand you're busy, but—" "No." Megan held up a hand. "You don't understand. I have a cardiac arrest in Bay 2, a multi-vehicle accident coming in, and a psych patient who tried to bite Dr. Hendricks. You—" She gestured at his arm. "Have a boo-boo. Wait, your turn." She walked away before he could respond. Cole watched her go, his expression neutral. He didn't feel anger. He didn't feel frustration. He felt nothing except the cold calculation of a mission that was about to go sideways. The 2 Russians in the waiting room had stood up. They were walking toward the elevators, going up. Cole reached for his call button, not to summon a nurse, but to press the hidden panic switch embedded in its casing. The signal was sent. His backup would arrive in 12 minutes. 12 minutes was too long. He looked at the IV port in his arm, still unconnected, at the hospital gown that made him look helpless, at the nurse's station where Megan Price was complaining to a colleague about her impossible workload. Then he looked at the elevator doors, closing behind the 2 Russians. Time to move. Ryan Cole didn't get out of bed. He flowed out of it. One moment he was a patient, slouched, passive, invisible. The next he was on his feet, moving with a predator's economy of motion, the hospital gown suddenly looking less like a costume and more like camouflage. He disconnected the heart monitor. The machine flatlined with a steady beep. At the nurse's station, Megan looked up at the sound. "Bed 7, your monitor." She stopped. Bed 7 was empty. "What the hell?" She stood up, scanning the ward. "Where did—" "Looking for me." Megan spun around. The patient from Bed 7 was standing directly behind her. She hadn't heard him approach. Up close, he looked different. The tired, forgettable patient was gone. The man standing before her was coiled energy, controlled power, eyes that didn't blink. "Sir, you can't be out of bed. You need to— Listen to me carefully," Cole said, his voice low and hard. "In approximately 2 minutes, armed men are going to enter this hospital. They are going to try to kill a woman on the 4th floor. When that happens, I need you to initiate a lockdown and get everyone in this ward into the supply room. Can you do that?" Megan stared at him. "What are you talking about? Armed men? This is a hospital, not—" "Can you do that?" Something in his voice made her take a step back. It wasn't a question. It was an order delivered with an authority that didn't come from a hospital gown. "Who are you?" Cole was already moving toward the stairwell. He paused, looking back over his shoulder. "I'm the guy you ignored for 45 minutes. Try not to let anyone else die while I'm gone." He disappeared through the stairwell door. Megan stood frozen for 3 seconds. Then the emergency alarm began to wail. The stairwell was cold and echoing. Cole took the stairs 3 at a time, his bare feet silent on the concrete. He had no weapon, no communications, no body armor. He had 16 years of training and a promise to keep. 4th floor. The door opened onto a quiet corridor, private rooms, reduced staff, the kind of ward where people came to recover in peace or to die without witnesses. Cole pressed himself against the wall, scanning the hallway. The FBI agents were gone. Their post outside room 412 was empty, not a good sign. He moved down the corridor, checking each room. Empty, empty, empty. Then he heard it, a muffled voice from inside room 412. "Told you I don't know where the files are. Please, I told the FBI everything." A woman's voice, terrified. "Elena." A man's voice responded, cold and accented. "The FBI is not here, Elena. No one is here, just you and me. Now one more time, where are the files?" Cole reached the door. Through the small window he could see the scene inside. Elena Petrov was in the hospital bed, handcuffed to the railing, her face bruised and bleeding. Standing over her was a man in a black coat, tall, thin, with the dead eyes of someone who had stopped feeling anything long ago. Dmitry Volkov, the ghost himself. Behind Volkov, the two Russians from the waiting room stood guard. One was holding a suppressed pistol. The other was dragging the bodies of the FBI agents into the bathroom. 3 armed men, 1 unarmed SEAL, 1 witness to protect. Cole smiled. He had faced worse odds in Ramadi. Cole didn't kick down the door. That was amateur hour, telegraphed, noisy, and gave the enemy time to react. Instead, he opened it quietly, just a few inches, just enough. The guard with the pistol was closest to the door. His back was turned, watching Volkov interrogate Elena. Cole slipped through the gap like smoke. His first strike was to the guard's throat, a precise blow to the vagus nerve that dropped him instantly. Silently, his body crumpling before he could make a sound. Cole caught the falling pistol before it hit the floor. 1 down, 2 to go. The second guard heard something, a whisper of movement, a shift in the air. He turned, reaching for his weapon. Too slow. Cole fired twice, suppressed rounds that sounded like coughs in the quiet room. The guard hit the wall and slid down, leaving a red streak on the white paint. Volkov spun around, a knife appearing in his hand with the speed of long practice. "You," Volkov breathed, recognition flickering in his dead eyes. "The SEAL from Fallujah." "Miss me?" They faced each other across the hospital room, the assassin and the operator, separated by 10 feet and 15 years of unfinished business. "You should have stayed hidden, American." Volkov's voice was calm, almost conversational. "Now you die in a hospital in a gown like a sick old man." "Funny, I was thinking the same thing about you." Volkov lunged. The knife came in low, aimed at Cole's femoral artery, a killing strike from someone who knew anatomy. Cole pivoted, letting the blade pass inches from his thigh, and drove his elbow into Volkov's temple. The Russian staggered but didn't fall. He was fast, faster than his thin frame suggested. The knife reversed, slashing back toward Cole's throat. Cole caught his wrist. They grappled, spinning across the room, crashing into medical equipment. The heart monitor shattered. The IV stand went flying. Elena screamed. Volkov drove a knee into Cole's ribs, the same ribs that had been cracked in a training accident 6 months ago. Pain exploded through Cole's chest, but pain was just information. He had been trained to file it away and keep fighting. He head-butted Volkov, feeling cartilage crunch, blood sprayed from the Russian's nose. Volkov stumbled back and Cole pressed the advantage. A strike to the solar plexus, a sweep of the leg. Volkov went down hard, the knife clattering away across the floor. Cole was on him instantly, knee on his chest, hands around his throat. "The bounty on Elena," Cole said, squeezing. "Call it off." Volkov laughed, a wet, gurgling sound. "Kill me, and 10 more will come. 20. You cannot protect her forever." "I don't need forever. I just need until she testifies." "She will never testify." Volkov's hand was moving, reaching for something in his coat. "Because this hospital will be ash before dawn." Cole saw the detonator a split second before Volkov pressed the button. The explosion wasn't in the room. It was below them, first floor, near the emergency department. The building shuddered. Alarms screamed to life. Sprinklers burst from the ceiling, flooding the room with water. Cole's grip loosened for just a moment, long enough for Volkov to drive a hidden blade into his shoulder. Pain. Real pain this time. Cole rolled off, clutching the wound, blood mixed with the water streaming down his chest. Volkov scrambled to his feet, retrieving his knife. He was bleeding, broken, but still standing, still dangerous. "My men have planted 4 more charges," Volkov said, wiping blood from his face. "In the basement, the pharmacy, the pediatric ward, and," he smiled, "the cardiac care unit where your FBI friends thought they could hide their backup agents." "You're bluffing." "Am I?" Volkov held up the detonator. 4 lights. 1 was dark, the first explosion. 3 were still green. "I press this button, and 300 people die, including the woman you came to protect." Cole looked at Elena. She was still handcuffed to the bed, soaked from the sprinklers, trembling with terror. He looked at Volkov, at the detonator, at the 3 green lights, at the madness in those dead eyes. He looked at the knife in Volkov's hand, at the blade in his own shoulder, at the blood pooling beneath his feet. "So here is what happens," Volkov continued. "You let me leave with Elena. I get my information. Then I disappear, and you get to play hero, evacuating the hospital, saving the patients, being the good American soldier. Everyone wins. Except Elena. Elena is a traitor. Traitors die. That is the natural order." Cole's mind raced. The detonator was the key. If he could get it, disable it, the bombs became irrelevant. But Volkov was 3 meters away, armed, and Cole was bleeding out. He needed a distraction, he needed help. And then, impossibly, help arrived. The door to room 412 slammed open. Megan Price stood in the doorway, fire extinguisher raised like a weapon, face streaked with smoke and tears. "Get away from her, you piece of—" Volkov spun, knife raised. It was the opening Cole needed. He launched himself across the room, ignoring the blade in his shoulder, ignoring the blood loss, ignoring everything except the detonator in Volkov's hand. They collided with a crash of bodies and braking equipment. Cole's hand closed around the detonator, ripping it from Volkov's grip. Volkov slashed with the knife, cutting a deep gash across Cole's forearm, the same arm with the laceration that had gotten him into this hospital in the first place. Cole didn't feel it. He was already moving, throwing the detonator across the room. "Catch!" Megan caught it reflexively, staring at the device in her hands. "Red button disarms. Press it 3 times. Megan's hands were shaking. The detonator had 3 green lights and 1 dark. 3 bombs. Hundreds of lives. She pressed the red button. Once, twice, 3 times. The green lights went dark. Volkov saw the lights die, saw his leverage disappear, saw 16 years of planning collapse in the hands of a nurse who had refused to treat a patient. He screamed, a sound of pure animal rage, and lunged at Cole with the knife. But Cole was ready. He caught Volkov's arm, twisted, and heard the satisfying crack of bone. The knife dropped. Volkov dropped with it, howling in pain. Cole kicked the knife away and drove his knee into Volkov's back, pinning him to the wet floor. "Dmitry Volkov," Cole said, breathing hard, "you're under arrest for terrorism, attempted murder, and really bad timing." "You think this is over?" Volkov spat. "My people will—" "Your people are dead." A new voice from the doorway. "We breached the basement 30 seconds ago, found your bomb squad. They didn't survive the experience." Cole looked up. 3 men in tactical gear stood in the doorway, weapons raised. His backup had finally arrived. "Spectre," the team leader said, nodding at Cole. "You look like hell." "Feel like it too." Cole stood up, swaying slightly from blood loss. "Get him out of here, and someone call the FBI. Their witness is secure." Elena Petrov was crying, tears of relief, of terror, of the overwhelming realization that she was going to live. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't thank me yet." Cole walked over and unlocked her handcuffs. "You still have to testify. That's the hard part." "I don't care. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything." She grabbed his hand, the hand that was still bleeding, still shaking from adrenaline. "Who are you? Why did you—" "I'm nobody," Cole said. "Just a patient who got tired of waiting." He turned to leave, then stopped. Megan Price was still standing in the doorway, fire extinguisher clutched to her chest, staring at the carnage with wide, uncomprehending eyes. Cole walked over to her. Up close, he could see that she was trembling. Her scrubs were soaked. Her mascara had run down her cheeks. She looked like she had aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. "You did good," Cole said quietly. "The detonator. That took guts." I don't..." Megan couldn't form words. "I was horrible to you. I ignored you. I called your wound a boo-boo. And you just saved your life?" Cole shrugged. "It's what I do. Don't take it personally." "But I was so..." "You were doing your job. Badly, but still, your job." He reached out and gently took the fire extinguisher from her frozen hands. "Go check on your patients. The first floor took damage. They're going to need you." Megan nodded slowly. Then, without warning, she started to cry. "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I thought you were just another complainer. I thought..." "Hey." Cole's voice softened, the first warmth he had shown all night. "You're a nurse. You see 100 patients a day. You can't know which one is going to turn out to be..." He gestured at himself, at the blood and the chaos and the unconscious Russian assassin being dragged away. "It's not your fault. But if you had treated me on time, I would have been discharged before Volkov arrived. Elena would be dead. The bombs would have detonated. 300 people would have died." Cole smiled, a tired, painful smile. "You ignoring me? That was the best thing that could have happened." Megan stared at him, processing this impossible logic. "Now go," Cole said. "Your patients need you, and Megan?" "Yes?" "Next time a patient presses the call button 11 times, maybe check on him." He walked away, leaving Megan standing in the destroyed hospital room, surrounded by broken equipment and bullet holes, and the dawning realization that she had just helped save 300 lives by being the worst nurse in the building. 3 weeks later, the Medal of Honor ceremony was held at the White House. Chief Petty Officer Ryan Cole stood at attention in the East Room, trying not to scratch the healing wound on his shoulder. The president was speaking, something about valor and sacrifice and the quiet heroes who protect America. Cole wasn't listening. He was thinking about Elena Petrov. She had testified 2 weeks ago. Her testimony had dismantled what was left of the Volkov organization, leading to 37 arrests across 4 countries. Dmitry Volkov himself was in a federal supermax prison, awaiting trial for enough crimes to keep him locked up for 300 years. Elena was in witness protection now. New name, new city, new life. She had sent Cole a letter before she disappeared, thanking him for everything. He had read it once, then burned it. That was the protocol. "And so it is my honor," the president continued, "to present the Navy Cross to Chief Petty Officer Ryan Cole for conspicuous gallantry and intrepidity in action." The medal was pinned to Cole's chest. Applause filled the room. Cole didn't feel heroic. He felt tired. He felt old. He felt the weight of 16 years of missions that no one would ever know about, sacrifices that would never make the history books. But then he saw her. In the back of the room, standing near the door, was a woman in nursing scrubs. Blonde hair, severe ponytail, face that Cole recognized instantly. Megan Price. She wasn't supposed to be here. This ceremony was classified. But somehow, she had found her way in. Their eyes met across the crowded room. Megan raised her hand, a small, awkward wave. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying. Cole nodded. It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't friendship. It was acknowledgement. 2 people who had shared the worst night of their lives, connected forever by chaos and blood and a fire extinguisher thrown at the right moment. After the ceremony, Cole found her in the hallway. "How did you get in here?" "I told them I was your nurse." Megan laughed nervously. "Technically true, right? Technically, you ignored me for 45 minutes. I know. She looked down at her feet. "I came to apologize. Properly. I was arrogant and dismissive, and I almost got you killed because I couldn't be bothered to..." "You saved 300 people. By accident. Doesn't matter." Cole leaned against the wall, his shoulder aching. "Results are results. You were there when it mattered. You caught the detonator, you pressed the button, that's what counts. Megan was quiet for a long moment. I quit my job, she finally said. At Chesapeake General, after everything that happened, I couldn't go back. I kept seeing Volkov, kept seeing the blood, kept seeing you lying in that bed and me just walking past like you didn't exist. So what are you doing now? I applied to the VA hospital in DC, trauma care for veterans. She looked up at him, something like determination in her eyes. I figured, if I can't undo what I did, I can at least spend the rest of my career making up for it. Cole studied her. She was different from the woman he had met in that ER, humbled, haunted, but also stronger. The kind of strength that comes from failure, from guilt, from the desperate need to be better. The VA is hard, Cole said. Those patients, they've seen things, done things. They don't trust easy. I know. They'll test you, push you. Some of them will be angry for no reason, and you'll want to write them off as complainers. I know. And when that happens, when you're exhausted and overwhelmed and some patient presses his call button for the 11th time, what are you going to do? Megan met his eyes. I'm going to check on him, every single time. Cole smiled. It was a real smile this time. The first real smile he had allowed himself in years. Good answer. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a business card. Plain white. No name. Just a phone number. If you ever need anything, resources for your patients, advice, someone to talk to about the nightmares, call this number. Someone will answer. Megan took the card, turning it over in her hands. What is this? Let's just say, I know some people who help veterans. Unofficially. He turned to leave. Wait, Megan called after him. Will I see you again? Cole stopped at the end of the hallway. He looked back over his shoulder, the Navy cross gleaming on his chest. Probably not. I'm a ghost, remember? He smiled. But next time you have a patient who seems like a nobody, quiet, forgettable, pressing his call button too many times, maybe take a closer look. Why? Because you never know which one is waiting for the killers to arrive. He walked out the door and disappeared. The story of Ryan Cole isn't about a hero looking for recognition. It's about a protector who understood that invisibility was his greatest weapon. For 45 minutes, he lay in that hospital bed, watching, waiting, being ignored. And in those 45 minutes, he gathered more intelligence than most people gather in a lifetime. He mapped the exits. He identified the threats. He memorized the faces of every person who could be a danger, and every person who might need to be saved. That's what protectors do. They watch, they wait. They endure the small humiliations because they know something bigger is coming. Megan Price saw a complainer, a whiner, a man with a boo-boo who was wasting her time. But Ryan Cole wasn't wasting time. He was buying it. Every minute she ignored him was another minute he spent preparing for the fight that would save 300 lives. The lesson isn't that nurses should treat every patient like a potential hero. The lesson is simpler than that. We never know who we're looking at. The quiet man in the hospital gown might be a Navy SEAL. The exhausted woman on the bus might be a surgeon who saved 6 lives that morning. The homeless veteran on the corner might have a Medal of Honor in his pocket. Everyone has a story. Everyone has fought battles we know nothing about. So the next time someone asks for your attention, the 11th time, the 12th time, the 100th time, maybe take a moment, maybe look a little closer. Because you never know. You never know who's waiting for the killers to arrive. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button. It helps us share these stories with people who need a reminder that heroes don't always look like heroes. And here's a question for the comments. Have you ever misjudged someone, dismissed them as ordinary, only to find out they were extraordinary? I want to hear your stories. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the time. Hit that button and ring the bell. Next week, we're telling the story of a school janitor who locked down the building during a crisis, and what the SWAT team found when they finally got inside. You don't want to miss it.